that's a good point, because you're literally shitting in your water should you take a dump out there, because that spring, I believe it's Oak Spring, that's feeding Cattail Falls. They pull water from that to furnish water for the Big Bend area. So it's not just the animals. You don't have to be altruistic here. You're literally shitting in your own water that you're going to go back and drink when you go get water at the ranger station.
Delightful.
Yes. So don't be an asshole.
Welcome to This Fucking Trail, home to brutally honest takes on Texas trails, hiking, hilarity, and all things adventure. I'm your MC, John, and I'm here to warn you that this podcast is not for young children or anyone with a sensitivity to swears or strong opinions. And now over to our hiking hostess with the mostest, intrepid explorer, affirmed potty mouth, and of course, my wife, Gabrielle.
Yep. That's me. Today is a Trail Intel episode. An episode that reveals all the down and dirty details of specific parks and trails. Does Big Bend National Park have flushing toilets? Is dispersed camping allowed? How many feet of elevation does Guadalupe Peak Trail gain? Find out all this and more on our report episodes. So John, are you ready to talk about a secret hike?
I am definitely ready to talk about a secret hike. Very excited about that. But before we get into what that secret hike is and all of the details about it, I do want to take just a moment, as we do, to ask a quick favor to you, our listener. We're having a ton of fun recording these stories, these trail reports, these discussions about secret hikes, and we're hoping that if you're hearing this message, you're having a good time too. So if you're getting something out of this, whether it's educational or purely entertainment, something in between, it would really help us out if you took a second and left us a review, preferably 5 stars. We hope we've earned it. Liking and following is great as well, if you want to make sure you don't miss an episode. But the reviews do a lot to get the word out for us. And if you're feeling super fucking generous, head on over to our Substack. There's a link in the show notes. You can support the show more directly there. Now, back to the episode.
All right, so today we're going to talk about Cattail Falls, which is in Big Bend National Park. And it's a secret hike because it's not on any official park maps anymore. And actually, it's been made more difficult to access over the years, I suspect because of its ecological sensitivity. Ooh. I think they want to reduce the traffic on the trail, is what I think. So like I said, it's not on maps due to the ecologically sensitive area. And as you may have guessed from the name, it ends in a waterfall, which is named Cattail Falls. Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah, big twist ending there. No, but it's really cool that there is this trail out there that isn't on the maps, and that's kind of like you said, it's a secret trail because of that, because most people are going to look at the map and decide where to hike, right?
Exactly. You have to do a lot of, I wouldn't say deep diving to find it, but you have to be listening to podcasts like this or being on blogs like This Fucking Trail to discover that these sorts of things exist. Cattail Falls is an 80-foot spring-fed waterfall that is super important to the flora and fauna of Big Bend National Park. It is spring-fed. Sometimes it's a trickle, sometimes it's an actual waterfall, but there's typically water there. This isn't just going to be a dry pour-off.
That's actually really cool, especially for that area.
Exactly. There's not much water in Big Bend National Park. There's quite a bit of water in the Big Bend Ranch State Park, but the national park really doesn't have much water. So just like Finnegan Springs Trail, this hike is pretty special, and I feel like it requires some extra hiking ethics. So before we get too far into all the down and dirty details of Cattail Falls, I'm gonna get up on my Leave No Trace soapbox.
All right, here, let me get it. Okay, here's your soapbox. Stand right up there.
Thank you.
Preach to the masses.
Okay, here we go. People are kind of assholes, all right? And they tend to leave a trace, even well-intentioned people who aren't trying to. As always, a hiker's duty to leave no trace and be extra vigilant on these particularly sensitive trails. There are specific rules posted at the trailhead for Cattail Falls. We're going to go over those really quickly and a couple other considerations. They specifically ask you not to wade or bathe in the water at Cattail Falls. They say that soaps, oils, and sunscreen damage the water quality, makes sense. It's a small pool and it's really important for the animals around there.
Yeah, if you think about it, yeah, you don't want somebody pouring soap into your glass of water. So just, show the same consideration to the wildlife in the area if you're going to make this hike.
And it also it makes the water not as pretty. If it looks scummy from an aesthetic standpoint, you're not going to want to look at it as much. So we want to keep it pretty for our eyes as well.
That's true. Yeah. Even if you're not very altruistic, from a purely selfish standpoint, like if you want to be able to enjoy the views, don't destroy them.
Yeah. As always, stay on the designated trail and the rocks around Cattail Falls so we don't beat down the vegetation. And you want to make sure, as always, that you pack out all trash, including organic waste. This is one that's really easy to miss.
Yeah. So a lot of people think that you can just toss, like, for example, fruit. You might toss your orange peels, your banana peels, thinking, oh, they're organic, they'll decompose. And they will eventually. But it's kind of shocking. Orange peels, for example, can take 6 months or more to decompose. So if you're tossing an orange peel, you might have just tossed litter onto the side of the trail that's going to be there for literally half a year. Banana peels are even worse. They can take 2 or more years to fully decompose. So you might be littering literally for years to come. And those are just a couple of examples, right? Other fruits may not last quite as long, but even an apple core is going to take a while. Tossing food is gross. You're making a mess. You're leaving a trace. You're also altering the ecosystem.
Yeah.
The National Park Service is on their Instagram. They're always reminding us not to feed the animals. When you toss organic waste from your food, you are feeding the animals, altering their diets, and that can be harmful to them. If they maybe eat something that they can't digest, or if they start to get addicted to human food, and then at some point that supply dries up, they might have other problems. They might have health problems caused by half-eaten muffin that you throw on the side of the trail. Could give a squirrel diabetes for all I know. The point is, you don't know what problems you're going to cause, but you can know for a fact that if you are leaving food on the side of a trail, you're going to cause a problem.
Yeah, so just don't do it. Should nature call, by which I mean number 2, the need to take a shit out in the woods, you want to make sure that you bury human waste at least 6 inches deep and 450 yards from this water source. You need to pack out your toilet paper. Doesn't matter how deep you dig it, you cannot bury it. That can take up to 3 years to biodegrade. Keep in mind that human waste can take more than a year to decompose in a desert. If you really want to know the ins and outs of shit in a desert and how it decomposes, listen to our Guadalupe Mountains shit episode. I'll attach a link in the show notes if you really want to get into it. But basically, get away from the water, at least 450 yards, and pack out the toilet paper.
Just, again, you wouldn't want somebody pooping in your drinking water. Show the same compassion for the animals. Our poop is not the same as their poop.
And actually, that's a good point, because you're literally shitting in your water should you take a dump out there. Because that spring, I believe it's Oak Spring, that's feeding Cattail Falls. They pull water from that to furnish water for the Big Bend area. So it's not just the animals. You don't have to be altruistic here. You're literally shitting in your own water that you're going to go back and drink when you go get water at the ranger station.
Delightful.
Yes. So don't be an asshole. Okay, I am done. You can take my box away.
All right, yeah, let's put that soapbox away. I think that's enough. I think everyone's got the message.
Do they, though?
Hard to say.
Okay. This hike is about 5.3 miles round trip. It is an out and back, much to my dismay. There is no way to turn it into a loop.
At the very least, it's not that long. 5.3 miles there and back. It's pretty short.
It is, yeah. The elevation gain is 594 feet. Do you think you could handle that, John?
I think I can handle that, Gabrielle.
The trail goes through the desert and it ends at that 80-foot spring-fed waterfall or trickle, depending on the time of year. Again, one of the few places that has water running or standing in Big Bend National Park. Along the way to the waterfall, you're going to see views of Vernon Bailey, Carter Peaks, and the Christmas Mountains. So there's some really beautiful mountains that you get to enjoy as you approach the waterfall.
Christmas Mountains. Oh,
yeah.
Sounds like this might make a nice holiday hike. Get in the spirit. All right.
So Cattail Falls Trail is in Big Bend National Park near the Chisos Mountains. You don't need any special cars to reach the trailhead. It's all paved roads with a very short section of gravel road that pretty much any car can do. I think I'd feel comfortable even taking our Honda Insight on that little section. So you don't need a Jeep or anything like that.
All right, very nice.
It's kind of surprising with it being a quote unquote secret hike. You would think that you need a really rugged car to access the trailhead. So it's nice that you actually don't. The trailhead itself, the parking lot is located off the Ross Maxwell Scenic Drive. So, as you are driving on the Ross Maxwell Scenic Drive, when you see Sam Nails Ranch, you're going to look to the opposite side of the road. There you're going to see a dirt road named Oak Spring Road. You're going to follow that. This is the gravel road that I was talking about. This gravel road takes you about a quarter of a mile before there is a road closed construction sign across the road. You cannot drive any further. This is where you park and where your hike begins. I don't really want to call this the trailhead because Oak Spring Road continues for about 1.5 miles before you reach the official trailhead. This is, I guess, is the unofficial trailhead. It wasn't always like this. It used to be that you could drive up Oak Spring Road, which does turn into a rougher gravel road. I don't know that all cars would actually be able to drive up it, but a couple years ago they put this sign up and don't let people drive any further. I suspect, again, to limit access, keep some people off of the trail.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember this part because I think we started this trail together at one point.
That's right.
But we were short on time, so we didn't finish it. And it was kind of odd the way that it was set up.
Yeah, it's just like clearly the road keeps going and there's this big construction sign with no explanation for why. So actually, now that you say that, when I went back with the intention to hike Cattail Falls, I wasn't sure if I was going to have to park there or if I was going to be able to drive further. But it turns out, seems like this sign is there to stay for the foreseeable future, at least.
It's been there for at least a year or two at this point, with no particular signs of construction ongoing, just closing the road off.
All right, so from the road closed parking area, the initial 1.5 mile hike is a relatively boring road walk. I did not particularly enjoy it. But once you get to the trailhead, there's a large oak tree. You'll see the sign with the leave no trace principles sign. I think there's a map there. This is a great spot to have a picnic or a rest break if you're tired from that 1.5 mile road walk. So once you start the official Cattail Falls Trail, there's a little bit of initial elevation gain. The trail's pretty dusty. There's some wooden steps initially. And then once you get up that little bit of elevation, you're going to see the views of those mountains. Like I said, Vernon Bailey, Carter Peaks, and the Christmas Mountains. Along this first section, the trail's pretty exposed. It's very hot. You're going to see your typical desert flora: agaves, yuccas, sotals, cacti, chrysote, mesquites, and the like. Not particularly remarkable, if you ask me.
But if you're looking for some traditional Big Bend flora and possibly some fauna, depending on the time of day, I think you'll probably see it there. Especially given the proximity to water, you're much more likely to see various forms of wildlife in the area.
That is true. Maybe we should talk a little bit about what to do if you see wildlife, because there are black bears in Big Bend National Park and there are mountain lions. So if you run across a mountain lion, do not run. If you have kids with you, you're going to pick them up. You want to appear as large as possible and give the animal space. And that's something to think about as you get close to the falls, because it does kind of close in. Once you're actually at Cattail Falls proper, there's not a lot of places to go. And so if you were to walk up on a mountain lion at the water or a bear at the water, you would want to back away and give them space, maybe come back another day to see the falls.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So when you do see a dangerous predator, you want to make sure that you're keeping it in sight, that you're not losing track of it, and that you are slowly moving away and making human sounds. So talking is great. That tends to let them know that you're there. In fact, anytime you're moving through an area where large predators may be present, making human sounds like that, talking, singing, even if you're alone, that's going to let any other animals in the area know that you're around. Most likely, they're going to move off before you ever see them.
Exactly.
You also, of course, as you mentioned, kids, if you have small children on a trail where you might be going through a canyon and there could be mountain lions in the area, it's extremely unlikely that you would be the victim of a mountain lion attack. So don't let the possibility of mountain lions in an area scare you off from hiking. That said, you also don't want to let your kids run wild, and you'd want to keep them close to hand. And also, kind of make sure that they're aware.
Mountain lions like kids because kids are small, they're easy prey, and they dart around. And so they tend to trigger that attack from the cats.
Yeah, if you've ever seen a house cat pouncing at shadows or at flies or literally anything, that same reflex is present in cats of all sizes. So if they see something darting around, that hunter mode gets engaged and they kind of do want to pounce. So
if you're attacked, fight back. Do not play dead with a mountain lion or a black bear. You're going to fight back with all that you have.
Fortunately, the black bears in the Big Bend area generally are fairly small, not too aggressive, pretty unlikely to be a significant danger, but obviously you want to let them know that you are a threat, and they will back off pretty quickly for the most part. Mountain lions also tend to give up when there's a strong resistance put up.
Right. They can't afford to be injured. If they are injured, that is a death sentence for them. So if you can show them that you're big and strong and likely to hurt them, they're going to give up and go away.
Yeah. You want to let them know that you're not prey, that you are a fellow apex predator. And while you might end up injured, a lot of people survive mountain lion attacks.
Yeah, there's been no fatal mountain lion attacks in Texas. In fact, I am not aware of any mountain lion actual attacks in the past couple of years in Texas. Like, there's been no bad attacks that have been recorded. There's been some negative interactions, particularly in Big Bend National Park, but no horrific attacks like you read about on the news and other places.
Yeah, not the kind of thing that you read about in like a death in whatever park book. That stuff is very rare.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
My favorite animal attack podcast, Tooth and Claw, is not recording episodes on animal attacks in Texas, which I guess is a good thing. But anyhow, let's move on from there. All right. As you approach the falls, the vegetation understandably becomes a lot more lush, and there's a creek that's visible off to your right-hand side when you're approaching the falls. And so this is where I kind of got excited and started to feel like this trail was a little bit more worthwhile. So there's vegetation on either side of the trail. At this point, there's some shade, which was a welcome respite for me. And that final section prior to entering the falls area involves a little bit of rock hopping and scrambling. I had to climb across some larger boulders. It was fun. Like, it definitely wasn't a hard physical challenge, but there was a little bit of climbing and scrambling, which I didn't really expect.
Gotcha. So is this something where if someone has some mobility challenges, they might not be able to complete this part of the trail?
Yeah, this is not the trail I would do if you have mobility challenges, just because it is a little longer, it is more exposed. It's not what I would call an easy trail. I think it's probably more of a moderate trail.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to call out for folks.
Once you get across those bigger boulders, you're going to carefully cross a little bit of water. At least when I was there, the water level was high enough that I had to kind of hop across some rocks and a log to actually get to the area where I could look at the waterfall really well. And again, they ask that you not wade in the water, so try to cross on some rocks. And this is where you get to sit and watch the falls and enjoy the splendor. So there is a pool at the base of the falls. When I was there, I was a little salty because I did see a film on top of the water and I couldn't tell what it was from, but the negative Nelly in me wanted to be like, ugh, people are actually wading in it, swimming in it, whatever, because it kind of looked like that sunscreen scum that you'll sometimes see in like dirty pools that aren't well kept.
Oh.
But I don't know.
That's too bad.
Yeah. So the waterfall is actually, the rock that the water flows down is really dark and it looks a little bit streaky. It's pretty unique looking rock. I have a YouTube video of this hike and I'll attach that in the show notes where you can kind of really look at this rock. It's pretty cool looking. This area is really nice for a picnic, for sitting and meditating on the meaning of life, snapping some good pictures, whatever you're out there for.
Gotcha.
It was pretty quiet at the falls. When I went, I saw 2 people there, but they left shortly after I got there. And even though the trail is secret, even though it's not listed on maps, I could tell that the area is highly trafficked. Along the trail, it's well worn. There's been a lot of feet there. At the actual falls, a lot of the rock in the area was worn pretty smooth from all of the feet that have been there. So there are still a lot of people going out there, but I am happy to report I didn't see trash, even organic trash along the trail.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah. And that's kind of it. Once you've had your fun at the falls, you just turn around and go back whence you came. There's not much more to it. I will say the road hike going back, man, it's a bitch. It's so boring. And the views are even worse because like when you are going in toward the falls, you at least see the mountains. When you're walking away, there's not nearly as good mountainous views.
Gotcha. So maybe the walk back is the time to throw on your favorite podcast, for example.
No, that goes, don't even get me up on that soapbox.
Okay. Well, anyways, I think that this is a great trail for people to know about, so long as they're willing to commit to leaving no trace. That's all we ask of ourselves and our fellow hikers.
Don't be an asshole.
Yeah. That's basically it. But hey, how often in the Big Bend area do you get a chance to see an 80-foot spring-fed waterfall?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I would definitely recommend this trail. It's great for people who want like a half-day hike. It's great for people who don't want the world's most challenging hike. It's great for people who want to just kind of experience the Chisos Mountains. It's a really nice all-around trail.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think that is it for this episode of This Fucking Trail. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Happy hiking!